What hurts the most isn't that they left. It's that they left without a word. No goodbye, no explanation, just silence. And in that silence, we blame ourselves. I remember staring at my phone, refreshing the chat over and over, hoping there was a glitch, that maybe the message I was waiting for was stuck somewhere between the satellites and my screen. I told myself, maybe their battery died, maybe they lost their phone, maybe they're just overwhelmed and need space. I clung to these maybes like a life raft, because the alternative, that they chose silence over honesty, felt too painful to face. And in that waiting, something inside me started to crumble. The mind is so desperate to make sense of what feels senseless that it will create stories, even if those stories hurt us. Maybe I was too intense. Maybe I said too much. Maybe I didn't say enough. Maybe I should have seen this coming. Maybe I don't deserve an answer. And the worst one of all, maybe I'm not worth the truth. There's this quiet moment, one I don't think we talk about enough. The moment when you realize they're not coming back. There will be no explanation, no closure, no final word to help you make sense of what happened. It's not loud. It doesn't come with drama. It's a slow hollowing out. You feel the weight of their absence settle in your bone, and that absence feels heavier than their presence ever did. Here's the thing about ghosting that cuts so deep. It interrupts the human need for completion. Our brains are wired to finish what's unfinished, to close loops, to solve the puzzle, to find the why. But ghosting leaves the door open and walks away. And we stand there, heart in hand, waiting for footsteps that will never return. That kind of uncertainty is brutal, because it doesn't just break your heart, it breaks your trust in your own ability to read people, to feel safe, to believe in your worth. And what I want you to hear right now, maybe more than anything else, is this. Their silence does not define you. Their inability to say goodbye, to offer you dignity in the end, that speaks volumes about them, not you. You are not unworthy because someone else chose the easy way out. You are not unlovable because someone else lacked the courage to be honest. You are what you choose to finish, for yourself. I remember the first time I admitted it out loud. I think I was ghosted. The words felt small, like I was confessing to something shameful. My voice cracked a little as I said it because part of me was embarrassed, not just because it happened, but because I let it happen, as if somehow I had failed at protecting myself. The person I told gave me this look, that awkward, pitying smile, and said, "Oh, well, maybe they just got busy." And I nodded along, even though my heart knew better, even though I knew the truth. They didn't get busy. They just chose to erase me. There's something so particular about the shame that comes with being ghosted. It's this invisible weight you carry because you feel like you're not allowed to grieve it. Society tells us to brush it off. Oh well, their loss. Or you dodged a bullet. Or move on. It wasn't serious. But the body knows better. The heart knows better. Because no matter how brief the connection, you opened yourself up, you let someone in, even just a little, and they vanished without giving you the dignity of an ending. And in that vanishing act, you start to question your worth. If I mattered, wouldn't they have said goodbye? If I mattered, wouldn't they have tried? That's where the shame sets in, the secret, quiet kind of shame. The shame that whispers, you must not be enough. The shame that keeps you from telling your friends how much it actually hurt because you don't want to seem dramatic. The shame that makes you replay every conversation, every message, searching for the moment you ruined it. And let me tell you, that shame is a liar. Because ghosting isn't about your worth. It's about their capacity. It's about their inability to face discomfort, to hold space for real human connection when it gets messy or complicated or hard. Psychologically, this is what we call internalized rejection. The brain's natural instinct is to protect us from pain. So when we're ghosted, it scrambles for a reason. And because we have no clear answer from the other person, we turn inward. We make it about ourselves. It must have been me. I wasn't good enough. I was too much. I wasn't enough. And we wear that shame like armor, thinking it'll shield us from getting hurt again. But what it really does is isolate us even further. Here's the truth I want you to hold on to. Even when that shame tries to take root, you are not shameful because someone lacked the courage to stay. Their silence says nothing about your value. It says everything about their fear, their avoidance, their unfinished work. You are not defined by the way they left. You are defined by the way you stay. With yourself, with your truth, with your heart open to the people who actually have the courage to show up. And I know that hurts right now. I know that feels impossibly heavy. But every time you choose to name the shame instead of let it name you, you're reclaiming a piece of yourself they never had the power to take. There's this hollow kind of betrayal that comes with ghosting, one that doesn't get talked about enough. It's the betrayal you can't fight, can't question, can't even name out loud most of the time. Because how do you confront someone who isn't there? How do you seek accountability from a person who slipped out the back door without a sound? I remember lying awake at night, drafting messages in my head. Messages I'd never send. I imagined texting, "I deserve better than silence." Or, "You could have at least told me." But every time I thought about sending them, I stopped myself. What would be the point? Would they even read it? Would they care? Or would it just make me feel smaller, more exposed, more foolish for still reaching out? It robs you of your voice. It steals your right to stand up for yourself, to ask for clarity, to express your hurt. It leaves you holding all the weight of the goodbye that was never given. And so the betrayal festers quietly, because at least when someone tells you it's over, you can meet their eyes, hear their reasons, even if it hurts like hell. But when someone ghosts you, they betray not just the connection you shared, but your very humanity. They choose their comfort over your closure. Psychologically, ghosting triggers the same response in the brain as a physical threat. It activates the fight or flight system because your brain senses danger in the form of rejection, abandonment, and uncertainty. But here's the cruel twist. There's no one to fight. There's no one to run from. You're left frozen, stuck in the in-between, replaying every moment, every word, looking for answers that aren't coming. I've learned something about this kind of betrayal. It forces us to have the conversations they were too afraid to have. But instead of having it with them, we have to have it with ourselves. We have to say to that broken part inside, "You deserved more." We have to become both the one who was hurt and the one who comforts, the one who was left and the one who stays. And I know that feels unfair, because it is unfair. You shouldn't have to clean up the mess they made by leaving the way they did. You shouldn't have to heal a wound you didn't choose. But here's the truth I want to leave you with. Their refusal to face you isn't a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of their fear, their avoidance, their inability to handle real intimacy when it asks something of them. You don't need their permission to heal. You don't need their closure to move forward. The betrayal you couldn't confront, it doesn't get the final word. You do. Every time you choose to keep your heart soft, every time you choose to stop waiting for a response that isn't coming, every time you choose to honor what was real for you, even if they couldn't. After the silence, after the sting of being ghosted, starts to settle into your bones, there's this desperate urge to do something, anything. You want to escape the ache, outrun the rejection, drown out the silence. So you start filling the void. You redemand dating apps even though your heart's still bleeding. You talk to someone new, not because you're ready, but because you can't bear to sit with the emptiness. You reach out to people who feel familiar, even if they're not good for you, just to hear your phone buzz again, just to feel like you still matter. I've been there. I remember scrolling through my phone late at night, not looking for connection, but for distraction. I wanted someone, anyone, to prove that I was still worthy of attention, that I hadn't just been discarded. I was trying to outrun a grief I hadn't even named yet. And here's the thing. This is what so many of us do. We don't give ourselves time to grieve the version of ourselves that hoped. We don't sit with the pain of being left without explanation. Instead, we fill our calendars, our inboxes, our weekend. We pour ourselves into work, into performance, into pretending we're fine. Psychologists call this emotional avoidance. It's our nervous system's way of coping by numbing. Because real healing asks something hard from us, presence. It asks us to sit with the very feelings we're trying to escape, to feel the full weight of our abandonment, to let the disappointments speak, to let the silence echo. But our culture doesn't honor stillness. It rewards quick recoveries, rebound relationships, glowing selfies captioned with moving on. So we rush. We rush into healing as if it's a race, as if the faster we act okay, the sooner we will be. But healing isn't performative, it's not linear, it's not a checklist. It's a surrender. It's messy and private and sacred. I remember the first night I didn't reach for my phone. I just sat there. No music, no scrolling, just me and the ache. It felt unbearable at first, but slowly, in that silence, something shifted. I started hearing my own voice again, the one that had been drowned out by the noise, the searching, the false comfort. I began to realize that I wasn't missing them. I was missing who I thought I was becoming in that connection. I was grieving the hope, the imagined future, the soft places in me that had opened up in their presence. And that grief, that's holy. That's human. You don't have to outrun the void. You don't have to fill it so fast. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is sit in it. Let it hollow you out in all the places that held illusions. Let it break the habits that seek love through validation. Let it teach you to choose peace over performance, because eventually that void becomes space. Space for real healing, real love, and real belonging. The space they left behind isn't meant to be filled with noise. It's meant to become the silence where you finally hear your own voice again. There's a moment, sometimes months later, sometimes after just a deep breath, when something inside you quietly whispers, enough. Not in anger, not in bitterness, but in truth. It's not dramatic. It doesn't come with fireworks. It often happens in a small, almost invisible act. You delete the thread. You stop typing out messages you'll never send. You unfollow, or you simply stop checking if they've watched your story. And it doesn't mean you're over it. It means you're beginning. You're beginning to come back to yourself. That's the thing about ghosting. It doesn't just steal your closure. It can steal your sense of worth if you let it. I know you haven't said this in some way before, but when someone disappears without a word, they leave behind this echo that says, you didn't matter enough to deserve an explanation. And if you're not careful, you'll believe it. You'll start to see yourself through their absence. You'll start to question your voice, your beauty, your enoughness. I know, because I did. I shrank. I overanalyzed. I replayed every detail, looking for the invisible flaw that made me forgettable. That's the danger of silent rejection. It makes you do their emotional labor. It makes you carry the shame they should have owned. But here's what psychology teaches us about self-worth. It isn't given. It's cultivated. Slowly, gently, in small acts of reclaiming. The road back to yourself isn't paved with revenge or rebounds or pretending it didn't hurt. It's built, brick by brick, on moments of self-loyalty. It's when you start choosing your peace over chasing someone else's permission. It's when you say no to patterns that keep you in cycles of proving. It's when you stop trying to be unforgettable to someone who forgot you. I remember standing in front of the mirror one morning, hair a mess, eyes tired, and I looked at myself, not in search of flaws, but in search of the me that remained. The one who had survived the silence, the one who still showed up, who still believed in love, who still held tenderness in a world that often didn't deserve it. That moment changed something in me. I realized I was never actually grieving them. I was grieving the version of me that hoped they were someone they weren't. I was grieving the future I built on silence, the dreams I'd handed to someone who wasn't brave enough to carry them. And you know what? That grief deserves a damn ceremony. A letting go that honors what was real for you, even if it wasn't real for them. Because healing isn't about pretending you were never hurt. It's about honoring your pain without letting it define your future. You start to rebuild when you stop tying your worth to the people who didn't stay. You reclaim yourself every time you speak kindly to your own heart, every time you set a boundary without apology, every time you choose not to reach out just to feel visible. It's in those quiet, defiant moments that you say, I am still worthy. Not because someone stayed, but because I did. And you did. You're still here. Soft, scarred, stronger. You may not have gotten the closure you deserved, but you're learning to give yourself something deeper. Clarity, compassion, courage. Because healing after ghosting isn't about getting them back. It's about getting you back, one brave, beautiful brick at a time. You were not too much. You were not too sensitive. You were not imagining it. Someone else's silence doesn't make you unworthy. It simply reveals they were never ready for the kind of love you were built to give. And that kind of love, that love deserves to be seen, chosen, and held, not ghosted. You are not what they didn't say. You are what you survived, and you are still becoming.